Please help me welcome our next session speaker, Jackie Jones of the California Department of Education, and her session on how to sustain and institutionalize your farm to school program through agricultural education and career technical education funds.
Good morning. Oh, so good to see everybody. We are going to be learning how to actually sustain your program through using CTE and career tech education, as well as CTE funds, but also through other CTSOs as well. So before we jump into that, we're going to give you guys a quick Google form to fill out that's going to be placed in the chat momentarily. And with that Google form, just go ahead and take the time to answer a couple of those questions and go ahead and kind of share with us again. We're just going to give you some background information about yourself. So like, are you a school administrator? Are you a teacher? Do you work for food services? Do you already have a farm to school program at your school or something that's very similar? Go ahead and take some time to fill that out. And as you guys are also doing that, I'm going to be kind of going over some of the objectives and outcomes of what we're going to be trying to accomplish by the end of today. Okay, to go over some of the responses that you guys have. A majority of you guys are teachers, which is great to see. We have a couple people that are school administrators and a lot of you who are a part of food services. So looks great. I'm so glad we have a variety of people here today to be helping out. I also see too that when it comes to having a farm to school program or something that's very similar, we have a lot of yeses, which is great. We already have people that have something that's very similar, and then we have a small percentage of no's. So I'm really hoping that today, for those of you guys who have the yes, that you're able to get some tidbits information on how to maybe help manage that a little bit better. But for those of you guys who say no, I'm really hoping today we'll be able to give you guys the checklist and things you need in order to go ahead and make that happen and to make it sustainable. And a lot of you guys have RECTE courses available, which is going to make your lives 1,000 times easier, which is great. CTSOs, a lot of you guys say yes for that one, and some of you guys say no. So again, as I stated before, today you'll be introduced to a specific CTSO called FFA, or the National FFA Organization. And we have some students here with us that are past and present that will be able to give you some insight to what that all entails. And a majority of you guys are all FFA, which is awesome. So I'm, like I said, probably almost like basically everybody that's here if you're a teacher, and having the FFA program already established, which is great. And some of you guys are receiving funding and some of you guys are not. So hopefully in the breakout room, when it comes to learning about grants, you'll be able to see how we can go ahead and actually help fund your program in other ways. So that looks great. Then I'm just going to be presenting this. And we'll go from there. So some objectives and outcomes we have for today. We really want to make sure you're able to identify the fundamentals of making the farm to school grant sustainable. Since the grant that you guys are receiving is only a one-year grant, if I believe, we have it where we want to make sure that your program's sustainable, not just for after that grant is gone, but also for the years in the future. We want to make sure that you guys are basically creating a sustainable program that's going to be able to last more than just 1 year, especially since you're putting so much work and time and effort into it. We want to explain what career tech education is, and looking at the survey, a lot of you guys already know what career tech education is, or CTEs. You might already have those at your school site. You might already have those within your district. And we're just going to kind of touch base a little bit more on that, and especially dive into ag education. Explain what CTSOs are, what they do, how they benefit students. We'll be doing a checklist as well, and you'll also be provided a web page link at the end of this presentation that will have all of the things that we talked about today, as well as other resources and website links. I'll give you guys a list of grants that are available. We'll talk about how to get them, what they're used for, and also you'll be able to discuss with teachers, administrators, and students today about managing ag education programs, but also learning a little bit more about the FFA. So, fundamentals of farm to school program. These are things you guys have been talking about for the past 3 days, right? Wanting to make sure that there's nutrition education between cafeterias, classrooms, and communities. Want to make sure that we're using sustainable food production and also looking at California produced foods, especially when it comes to our specialty crops that we grow here in California, and also giving a high quality student experience. When you look at the three things that we have here, California Department of Education already actually provides a lot of this for you through CTE programs. And that's how the best way you can actually package everything together. When it comes to CTE, CTE can support, sustain, and institutionalize your guys' farm to fork program or farm to school program that you guys have at your school sites. So when it comes to CTE, we end up providing industry-based skills, lots of hands-on learning, quality opportunities for students, quality standards-based curriculum. We have over 15 different CTE pathways and sectors that you can go ahead and choose from. And there's grants available to assist these programs with program development and to make them sustainable. When it comes to career tech, again, there's 15 different pathways. So even though there's also culinary arts and a couple other pathways that might be able to fit with your program, ag education is the one we're going to be talking about the most today. So please, again, you can feel free to go ahead and look at all the different types of CT pathways that we provide. But again, like I said, we're going to be focusing a lot more with ag education because it actually, I would say, mimics and actually fits in so well with the farm to school program that you guys have already been developing within your school site or within your district. So how do we go about that then, right? Here you have it where you have a CTE program. You're going to start getting, well, I'll give you guys a checklist information on how to kind of start that. But once you figure out what pathway you want to make it sustainable, right, kind of comes down to money. And I think that's a lot of people think of. If I'm going to have a program that is going to be sustainable, I need to make sure I have funding that's coming into it. And especially with the farm to school grant that you guys have received, that gave you the funding to go ahead and build the foundation for your farm to school program. But now, where do we go from there once that money's gone? When it comes to requirements of CTE funds, you have to have a couple different things in place already in order to even basically apply. One of those areas is having a 2-course pathway sequence that basically is relevant to one another. Having a concentrated course and a capstone course. And I'll talk a little bit more about this when we get into the grant breakout room today. So this could be anything, say, if it's a culinary arts program, it could be culinary art 1 would be your concentrator and culinary art 2 would be your capstone. For ag education, we could have something such as ag biology being the concentrator and plant science or so being the capstone. However, again, we'll get a little bit more into detail when you go into the breakout room for grants. When it comes to the advisory committee, you've already done that work, right? When it comes to the farm to school program, you guys were supposed to have a list of community stakeholders and supporters that were going to be helping you. And so creating an advisory committee is actually probably pretty easy for you to do to fulfill this requirement. And then lastly is a CTSO, the Career Tech Student Organization that provides leadership opportunities to students inside the classroom and outside the classroom. This probably is the hardest thing for people to try to grasp and to get, especially if they're not used of actually understanding how leadership organizations work. So when it comes to having to get a 2-course pathway sequence, that's usually pretty easy for teachers to go ahead and set up. Advisory committee, getting community stakeholders, pretty easy to do. But finding that CTSO has to fit perfectly within your pathway, but also has to fit within your curriculum as well. And that's where ag education comes into play. When it comes to ag education, we are focusing on the 3-ring circle model: classroom instruction, SAE, which is student or supervised agriculture experiences, and also FFA, which is our leadership organization portion. When it comes to this, all of these basically connect together. So whatever the students learning in the classroom, they're gonna be able to apply to their SAE project as well as their leadership portion of the 3-ring circle model. Students then have that hands-on learning. So whatever they're learning in the classroom, they can then go ahead and apply to their SE project, which can easily be your farm to school garden that you guys have, or your farm that you guys are going to be creating at your school site. And so that makes it easier for the process of ag education, hands-on learning, and learning by doing to go a lot smoother within this area. Again, there's other CTSOs and other career pathways that also focus on something very similar, but when it comes to your guys' farm to school program, this basically is the one I feel actually merges a little bit easier and better together when it comes to incorporating the two. So how does Ag Education step in? Well, again, 2 course pathways. We have it where we have a list of different, multitude of classes you can go ahead and teach, and everything with standardized based curriculum attached to every single one of them. On top of that, like we talked about before, you already have your supporters to create an Ag Advisory Committee. Not only are you looking for community stakeholders for that, but you're also looking for individuals who maybe can help out with the classes you're teaching. So say, for example, you decide to do aquaculture and aquaponics. You might want to have somebody on your advisory committee that also maybe has a business in that area that's local within your surroundings that can go and help out and give you tidbits of information on what industry is doing and that type of deal. Again, we talked about the struggle for CTSOs and how that's hard to be able to put together, because it's not only things that have to be happening outside the classroom, but within the classroom settings as well. And also on top of that, some other CTSOs don't provide 100% membership. And with Ag Education, we're all inclusive. We feel that if a student is enrolled in an Ag Education course, that they then should have the full right to be a part of the leadership organization of FFA. So in California, we're 100% membership based, which means that if a student is enrolled in an Ag Education class, they do not need to pay membership dues at all to be able to go ahead and to be a part of FFA. This, we feel, as for California, that it stops the issue of not having students who maybe, are within that area where they can't afford the $8, the $10 to be a member for a full year. Through Ag Incentive Grant, we actually cover that for them. So you pay membership dues through Ag Incentive Grant, which works out great. We'll talk about that a little later in the breakout room. But when it comes to looking into being inclusive, this program is fully inclusive to all students, race, age, sex, gender, all of the above. All right, perfect. All right, we're right on time. Next thing we're gonna be doing today, we're gonna be going ahead and going through breakout rooms. And when it comes to the breakout rooms, we'll be there for 10 minutes apiece. And I can tell you right now, the information that you're gonna be receiving these breakout rooms, we could probably do a full day, that's for sure on that end. But with these breakout rooms, we're gonna be focusing on 3 different things. In one of the breakout rooms, we'll be talking about grants, how to apply, what they entail, what can you purchase through those types of grants, what can you not purchase through those types of grants. In breakout room number 2, you'll have a teacher, administrator, kind of like perspective on things, how to operate and manage your school farm or your school garden. How do you get students involved? How do you get student engagement with that? How do you incorporate that into your classroom setting? And lastly, you'll be meeting some FFA members who are pretty amazing in my book, but they're going to talk to you guys about the benefits of agricultural education and what they got out of it when it came to FFA and where it is taking them as present members and where it's taking them through their future as well. And you'll hear the student's voice on that part. Like I said, each breakout room will be 10 minutes long. You do have a workbook, and I forgot to bring that up in the very beginning, but if you do have your workbook from today, please go through and kind of fill that out. Type in as much information as you guys need to. Ask the questions when you guys are in these breakout rooms, right? This is the best opportunity to do so. Have these like one-on-one discussions if you guys possibly can. So ask the questions, like take the notes, do whatever you guys need to do. So when you guys walk out of this session workshop today, that you feel confident enough to go ahead and either start your own start your CTE program at your school, or be able to go ahead and help make your CTE program that you have already a little more sustainable. All right, okay, couple last things, because I do know that, okay, just kind of getting through this for the getting started. Okay, so this is a link. If we can put this link in the chat, that'd be amazing. I'll also showcase this real fast for you guys. Basically with this, there's a checklist that's on this webpage. The checklist kind of just gives you kind of a very generic, again, if you have to start your own CTE program, what are the steps you have to take for that? If you're trying to start your CTSO, it gives you guys some information on who to contact and everything. Every CTSO is a little bit different when it comes to receiving a charter. So for, again, for Ag Education FFA, for that one, you need to have, your advisory committee list provided. You need to have the list of the teacher who's a credentialed teacher. You need to have let's see here. Here we go. You need to have a list of your students who are your officers. Okay, so and then you have to fill out like what's your constitution. There's all those things, but every CTSO, I guess, like requirements on how to get your charter is all different. So even though right now I'm only giving you guys the FFA, like regional supervisors and such, and their contact info, I'm also going to be adding the other information from other people that are from the CDE that also oversee things such as DECA and such. So that will be also on that website. When you guys go to that website, let me see if I can actually do that real quick. Oh, here it is. Perfect. Okay. When you go to that website, you'll see that I will place, right now I don't have that in there right now, but Buena Park, I'll place their Managing School Farms slideshow in there. You have website links for Perkins funding, CTIG funding, Ag Incentive Grant funding, CT courses, especially with CalPads, your CT pathways and standards, CTSO information that provides you all the CTSOs that California provides. And actually, when you click on those links, it sends you directly to their home pages. And then also here's the checklist. This is the same information you guys have already at the bottom portion of your workbook and such, but I will also be adding more information when it comes to other CTSOs as well, if you're interested in that. Other than that, this has been the fastest 50 minutes of my life. Just want to give you a heads up on that. Let's see here. Oh, great question. A good resource or best practices address career exposure at the elementary school level. That's a great idea. I know, Ag in the Classroom, I know they have some amazing curriculum to go with that. Another thing that I'll probably do for you as well is actually give me a heads up on where you are teaching at or where your school site's at, and we will go ahead and connect you possibly with the high school that is associated with that area. So for example, and I know I keep using Buena Park as an example, but it's because they're stellar and just because also I'm a little biased, I used to teach there. But when it comes to Buena Park, they already have it where they have students that have a SE project called Ag Education, where they are creating curriculum, that's standard-based curriculum, and they are teaching it to the elementary schools. And that's perfect. I love it. Great. MDUHSD. Okay, great. And Bakersfield. Perfect. Okay, so I will go ahead and probably at the end of this, if you guys can, go ahead and just send me an email. So my email address is right below here. And thank you, Rachel, for putting that in. And then just contact me and I can go ahead and connect you with another regional supervisor, and they can try to connect you with the ag program that's there, that maybe they're already doing something like that. And you guys can help bridge that gap of your elementary schools and your high schools or even middle school programs connecting together, which would be amazing.